So hi there, this is Ritu Tamrate and you're watching my channel Literature with Ritu. So we were studying one chapter, Hearts and Hands. So up to here we have already understood this chapter. The two men settle down the aisle into the smoker. Now we are going to end the chapter with this last page, that is the two passengers in a seat nearby had heard most of the conversation. Okay, said one of them, the marshal is a good sort of chap. Some of these western fellows are all right. Like the first passenger was praising the marshal, pretty young to hold an office like that, isn't he? The other passenger was surprised that the marshal was such a young fellow and he was holding an office of such a great responsibility. Now the young now the second passenger said, the first passenger, sorry, he exclaimed with surprise, young? Why? Oh, he exclaimed with surprise, because he was surprised that the second passenger had not so far understood what the reality was. So, what the reality was, didn't you catch on? Say, did you ever know an officer to handcuff a prisoner to his right hand? So now he tells the reality to the second passenger, that have you ever noticed that a marshal or any police officer will handcuff their prisoner with their right hand? It's never possible, because they are not supposed to do this. They will never engage their right hand with their prisoner, because their right hand is everything for them. They do all the things with their right hand. They have got all the actions, everything, all the energies, everything they will do with their right hand. So it is never possible for a for a policeman or any such officer to handcuff their prisoner with their right hand. They will always handcuff or shackle their prisoner with their left hand. That means they will shackle their prisoner, or the right hand of the prisoner with their left hand, because they have to keep their right hand free. So this is how the story unfolds itself at last, and this is how we are so surprised, because we were acquainted with something else, we were reading something else, we were like the story was going on, or it was going on I mean differently, like, but it ends up with such a great surprise. So uh, the the story is, I mean, such a story which leaves its readers dumbfounded at last. So this is the situational irony. Okay, so what is the situational irony? The story ends up with something opposite or contrary of what we were expecting. So this is the situational irony. So what is the verbal irony? Verbal irony is something when you say something but you mean something opposite or contrary. You mean something different. So let me show you some, like, see here. Money has a way of taking wings unto itself, and it takes money to keep step with our crowd in Washington. I saw this opening in the West. So I have so far explained the meaning of these lines. So these lines were being told to Miss Fairchild by Mr. Easton, but he meant something different. So what he meant that if anybody wants to keep step with high class people, or if anybody wants to get together with cash rich people, then in that case they need a lot of money, and it's not possible for them to earn such a huge amount of money through fair means. Like, they will have to take up on some unfair means by which they can earn a lot of hail of money, and this is how they can keep step with crowd in Washington. And the opening and the opportunity of earning money through these kinds of unfair means, he got these kinds of opportunities or these kinds of chances in the West. So this is the internal or in-depth meaning of these lines. So in the while making you understand the story, or while explaining the story, I told you in between that I would make you understand these lines at the end of the chapter, because I just did not want to mar the kind of interest with which you were listening the story and all. So I today the last day of the story, and I am just trying to tell everything about all these verbal ironies and all. So knows his business. So let's the next is knows his business. Here, see, here Mr. Easton knows his business. So here also, glum-faced man was telling Miss Fairchild that Mr. Easton had handcuffed him, or I mean that glum-faced man, uh, with his own hand, because he did not want, or he did not want his prisoner to give any opportunity or chance of running away from his clutches. That's why he had done so. But the actual meaning was that, and yes, also glum-faced man said about Mr. Easton that Mr. Easton was such an expert in his responsibility. But what he actually meant, that Mr. Easton knows his business. What he actually meant, that Mr. Easton was such an expert fellow in his unlawful activities. Okay. Now he also said, my butterfly days are over. See here. So now see here, Mr. Easton said, my butterfly days are over, I fear. So he was trying to tell her that he was now a man of responsibilities, and he had got a lot of onus on his head, over his head rather, and that's why it was not possible for him to, uh, you know, to it was not possible for him to mingle with people all the time, or it was not possible for him to, you know, meet people, so frequently, because now he had got so many responsibilities over his shoulders. So that's why, now he was not a man like, who could have a lot of funs and entertainments in his life. So he said, my butterfly days are over. But what he actually meant by these lines, he actually meant that now he was going to be imprisoned. Okay. Now he was going to be jailed, and that's why he was going to remain inside the jail all the time. So it was not possible for him to, wander here and there, uh, freely like other common people. So it was not possible for him to, have funs, entertainments, and the stuff like that. So this is what he actually meant by this line. Okay. Now one more thing I would like to tell you. Here you could see one more aspect, appearance versus reality. Now first we will talk about Miss Fairchild. Miss Fairchild was a girl who was so pretty to look at, but I mean she was very beautiful, of course, but she was not at all intelligent. Like, she uh, could not understand the reality of Mr. Easton, and that's how it is proved that she was beautiful, all right, on the one hand, but on the other hand she was not at all intelligent. And also, here, see, money isn't everything, but people always misunderstand things and remain stupid. Now these lines have been said by Miss Fairchild, but what she says by these lines, she said that money isn't everything. That means money per se is not everything, but people think so. People misunderstand that money is everything, but and people are stupid by thinking so. But what is the reality? She herself is such a big stupid that she did not understand, or she could not understand the reality of Mr. Easton. Now, so this is the appearance versus reality as far as Miss Fairchild is concerned. Now, uh, glum-faced man, he was the actual marshal, but how he was, like, what he was looking like, how he was to look at. See, let's go to the first page. See here. The other ruffled, I have already explained these lines. Glum faced man, I mean, his face was such a serious kind of face he had got. Heavily built, roughly dressed, okay. But actually, he was a man of good heart, okay. He was a man having a very soft heart. Because why? Because he was trying his best to save Mr. Easton from being embarrassed in front of Miss Fairchild, because she was one of his acquaintances. So again, appearance versus reality, because his appearance was so unattractive, but meanwhile his heart was so good. Now we will talk about Mr. Easton. Mr. Easton was very handsome to look at. See, handsome presence with bold, frank countenance, manner. So he was such a good personality. He was very good to look at, handsome young fellow. But what is the reality about him? He was a very, I mean, bad kind of person, of course, and he was a person who even did not spare such an innocent girl from. I mean, he did not even spare such a beautiful girl. Mm, as far as his unlawful acts were concerned, he did not even spare that girl. So he deceived the Miss Fairchild also by not telling her the reality. Okay, he is. So he was. Sorry, let me find out. So he was actually a thief. He was actually a thief, but he did not show, and he was playing such smart. I mean, he was playing such smartly in front of Miss Fairchild that he uh, even deceived Miss Fairchild. Okay, so again, the appearance versus reality. That his appearance is something different, and the kind of reality he has actually got is totally different from his appearances. Now, last but not the least, which is the title of the story, which I always tell you people that it's quite imperative for us to understand. First of all, the title of the story which we are going to read or study. So in the beginning, it was not possible for me to tell you about the title of the story, because I told you that it was not uh, I mean, feasible, or it was not practical for us to understand the title of the story in the beginning of the chapter, because there were so many things for us to understand. There were so many the deep embedded meanings inside the story, without understanding which it was not possible for us to understand the story. Now, sorry, it was not possible for us to understand the title of the story. So now it's so clear: hearts and hands. So we, the hearts, whose hearts? The three hearts: the heart of Miss Fairchild, heart of glum faced man, heart of Mr. Easton. Okay, and hands, two hands. Two hands means whose hands? Hand of Mr. Easton and hand of glum faced man. Okay, so this is how the story ends today. So we will again meet with some other story very soon. I'm going to upload my next story, or whatever it is. Maybe it is a poem, maybe it is a story. So till then, uh, stay safe, stay home, and one thing more: if you like my ways of teaching, my ways of explanation, please uh, like my videos and subscribe to my channels. Okay, till then, bye bye.